All right, moving on to Forge. We're going to go with Intuitive Genius. 3-cost Bolt character, X-Men affiliated with a strange 122, 142, 244 stat line. So you got to pay 2 on top to get this 3-drop. But he's got a really cool Energized Effect, probably my favorite Energized Effect, that says action dice cost you 2 less to purchase until the end of the turn. So the nice thing about this is if you trigger this Energized Effect, you get this double bolt that you've rolled, and you get a 2 discount on any action die. So there are a lot of really good playable 4-cost action dice out there. And if you can land this Energize Effect early on, like turn 3, then you can buy one of those for 2, meaning you can buy a 4-cost basic action for Forge because he produces 2 bolts, which is pretty cool. So you just pay him and you get a 4-cost basic action. Like, name me a 4-cost basic action that you'd want to buy.
Doomlance.
Like Doomlance, you could buy Doomlance. I was thinking Power Almighty. You could buy that because that's really good ramp in this day and age for fun casual teams. There's a ton of them out there you could buy. Team Up. You could buy Team Up, which makes some sense. Yeah, so as long as you're rolling this on the double bolt side and not paying those exorbitant fielding costs, then this card's pretty sweet.
I agree with all of that. There's no swaying that needs to happen. I gave this card a C+. You can get this. You can roll it on double energy and buy a 4-cost. I mean, that's not even counting all of the good 3-cost actions that you don't have to pay 1 bolt for.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you're running like heavy actions, this would be really cool. I just can't see him in the field ever doing anything more productive than, a 2-cost or something. So that would be a downside.
So I gave this a C because of that exact reason. Fielding this is generally pretty bad. And then rolling it on a single bolt is also generally pretty bad because it's really looking for you to do exactly one thing, which is trigger Energize. And so for that reason, you're buying a character that's a 3-cost for the 1 in 3 chance of rolling a double bolt. So I gave it a middle of the road C because the powerful effect when it triggers is good. But the other things are not as good. The next Forge is Forge Inventor, 3-cost bolt character, same affiliations. This one says when fielded, draw and roll a die. I will save us too much talking on this one. This one is just plain C for me. There's not really much to say about this. It's a 3-drop that gives you a die in draft. This one allows you to draw and roll. Most of them say draw and prep, so you can kind of weigh that. But there's a lot of cards that do a similar thing, and it would be fine picking it up in a draft, and you're probably not really caring if you're using it in constructed or anything like that. But it's playable, and you could if you wanted to. If you like the character Forge, for example, and you're building a casual team. If someone tells you that you have to spell a random word with your team build and you need the word Forge or something, I don't know, then this is like totally playable. So there you go.
I totally agree on every account, and this would be an F card if I wasn't such a draft fan. Also, if it just said draw and prep a die, like the previous versions of this card, it would be an F card. I do think the draw and roll is pretty cool. There are some potential shenanigans with, purchasing something, getting it over into your bag and drawing and rolling it on the same turn, technically. But again, if you're fielding this Forge, you're doing it wrong. So I'm going to say nope. I gave it a C, but only because in draft, getting more than 4 dice is pretty good.
You know what? I am totally going to change my mind on this card. Are you ready for this? Because
I'm so ready.
I just realized if you're buying this 3-drop and then paying 2 to field it just so that you can draw and roll a die, for a 4/4, that's generally not good at all. So there are a lot of cards out there that do things like draw and roll a die a lot better than pay 3, field this by paying 1 or 2, and then drawing and rolling a die. So in that scenario, I'm giving this a D because this is not worth the price of admission. I don't know what I was thinking giving this a C, but I think it is worth a D now that we've talked about it.
Again, only in draft gives this a C. Otherwise, I would have really, really hurt this card.
Don't hurt this card. Maybe the next one. We'll talk about the next one.
Precious. have to buy a whole nother box to get one. So.
Yeah, there you go. Forge Tribal Shaman, 3-cost bolt character. Again, this one just straight up has Attune. So Attune in general is a pretty decent ability. As an Attune character, one of the few in the set, it's worth looking for or looking at in draft, because you could grab this and just buy up your basic actions, several of which are 2-drops and have beneficial effects within the set. So this makes a decent draft option. You do have to pay a lot to field it. Again, I think just those fielding costs and the stat line are pretty prohibitive in general for Forge, but having Attune seems just fine, and I would grab this in draft and be okay with it, because again, there are some actions within those basic actions that are worth purchasing at 2 and using. So I give this a C. This is a middle of the road.
Yeah, I gave this a D+. I really wanted this card to work out. It's like you said, it's just so prohibitive. Fielding costs are gross. The stat line is not good enough to really threaten your opponent. And you know, Attune characters with low defense, we've seen that sort of backfire. So I would say only on level 3 is this actually like good Attune stats. So just not good. Not good. D+ from me.
All right, we are approaching the end. We are on the last 2 characters. This one is Magic. Energy from Limbo. And this is a 4-cost mask character, X-Men affiliated, and it has my favorite weird stat line from the UXM set. This is the 014-016-127 stat line. This ability says energize, draw, and roll a die. So in other words, if you roll this during the roll and reroll step and it comes up double mask, then after you finish that roll and reroll step, you get to draw and roll a die from your bag, which is kind of interesting. Energize is such a weird ability because it's trying to give you a bonus for missing tempo. If you're missing a character die, you don't get the character face, then you lose out on tempo. So what this is trying to do is give you some value for that by drawing and rolling a die. The unfortunate thing is it just does not do anything if you actually get the character. So there's no incentive on actually going for the character, except for the fact that you've got a 4-drop that you could stat flip to a 2/7 from a 2/7 to a 7/2. And there's a better 4-drop that you could do that same thing that becomes a 7/3 that also has a really good ability that's better than draw and roll a die, that also has a global that works well with it. And yeah, this card just doesn't really do much, in my opinion. There's just a better card that literally lives in the set. You could play this if you want an Energized team because it functions, I guess. I gave this a D.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just your opinion. I will lay on a secondary opinion that is very close. I also gave this a D. I think if this was a 3-cost, we would be having maybe a different discussion. But I think the when fielded draw and roll a die is already better, right? I mean, the only thing saving this is a stat line that can be flipped and that it's a mask character. I think there's a lot of good mask globals. So if you roll this Energize, you get to use 2 masks for globals.
Let's talk about the next one because it only gets better from here. Limbo Control, 4-cost mask. When magic is fielded, deal 1 damage to target opponent for each non-sidekick character die on an energy face in your reserve pool. So what's like realistically the best that you can do with this? Because again, you're fielding this character, and before you field it, you're going to have to roll non-sidekick character dice on energy faces. So again, if you think about Energize, it's incentivizing you, or it's rewarding you, or giving you a consolation prize for missing tempo and missing blockers and missing attackers on their character faces, for getting them on something other than that. So this is a similar ability in the sense that if I field this while also having missed other characters, then yay, I get to deal 1 damage for each character that I missed. Oftentimes, it's just better to have 3 characters on the board than it is to have 3 damage to your opponent's face. Unless, for example, your opponent's at 3. In which case, yeah, take the 3 damage, but also you just missed 3 characters and probably had like way more damage on board. So it's just really, really bad in general. You could maybe play it on Energize because, it's Energizer trying to roll on that. So that's obviously, that's the low-hanging fruit of this card. You're trying to play this with Energize, but it's not very good in general for that because, again, if you're doing all that, then like you're missing just a bunch of stuff on board. So I gave this a D.
Yep. I gave this the ever elusive and hard to define F plus. Again, the plus only coming from, I mean, I can see there are cards that this would work well with, kind of. Like, best case scenario, and that's, best is such a flexible word in this sentence. The best case scenario is that you have 3 characters on double energy. Oh, it's only on a energy phase. Okay.
Yeah, you could roll it on any energy phase, but you want the Energized Effect to go off, right? So you want that double energy.
Right. This card would be interesting at the exact same cost if it just said for each die on an energy phase in your reserve pool. If it could count sidekicks,
oh, geez, dude, that would be disgusting. That would be ridiculous. Because then it becomes deal a damage based on how much energy you have, which is gross. So don't talk about that.
Like sort of like Lantern Ring. Remember that great card? So yeah, this is bad. I said F plus, and I will stand by that. I can't even imagine. I feel like this is going to be the last card that wheels to you in the draft.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, let's move on to the last magic. This is Magic Psionic Shields, and this one says,
please impress us.
While magic is active, your opponent may not roll or reroll, or excuse me, I should say, your opponent may not reroll more than 2 dice during their roll and reroll step. Okay, now we're talking. Now this is a card that I would very much hate to play against. It's not the most powerful thing just because you oftentimes can live with some mediocre results and just roll the ones that like character faces that you really want to get, character dice, I should say, to land on character faces. But the fact that it makes you make a tough choice as an opponent is kind of cool. It's hard to remove through traditional means. You can't just like attack with something and then assume that this is going to block and KO because it's got a 2/7 stat line on top. So through traditional means, this is just going to stick around. This card is busted in draft because in draft you don't have blanking or like heavy removal options. And so your opponent against you is just going to feel so stifled because they can't reroll everything that they might want. So like you get 2 sidekicks and a character on double energy and like some other random die, like a fist or something. What do you do with that? Where do you go from that point? And that's why this card to me is interesting, and I gave this a C+. It's not the most powerful control tool in the world, but it's definitely worth a look, and it stat flips well, and it's got a good defense, so it sticks around. Yeah, all around pretty decent card, worth a look for control.
Especially in terms of just this pack. I think there are some things in the campaign box and the other team pack that are more control-y and do more control-y things, but in this exact team pack, this is one of the few like sole purpose control cards, which is cool. Does it do a great job? I don't know. I wanted this card to let me decide which 2 dice they could reroll. That would be awesome.
Ooh, yeah, that would be gross.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of competitive teams currently and the sorts of things that you pull out on your draw and your roll and reroll step. You know, is it really going to hurt me terribly bad to not be able to reroll 2 of them? I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's not great. I gave it a C-. It's worth playing on teams.
I'm going to spell this out to you in a scenario, and you tell me if this is good or bad, right? Okay, so you're playing against a Fix-It team. They're rolling 6 dice, 4 sidekicks, I don't know, some random action, just throw an action in there, who cares, and a Fix-It, right? They roll the Fix-It on single fist. They roll like 1 fist, 1 shield, 1 bolt, whatever, you know, like a suboptimal, what we would call suboptimal energy types for that team, because you want the bolts to ping, right? They only, out of all of those 6, can reroll 2 things. So more than likely,
my mind by introducing more dice. I was only thinking the 4 that you drew, but now this makes way more sense.
On my opponent's turn, when they want to win, they missed the character the first time, and obviously you got to reroll a character, right? But they also missed the requisite number of bolts that they might need to pay in order to deal the winning damage by buffing their Fix-It. All of a sudden, this single card makes it a lot more likely that they don't have lethal. And for that reason, it's actually really kind of interesting because there are teams that just rely on you rolling a bunch of junk at the same time and doing something powerful with that. And if you can't tailor make what you roll by re-rolling, then this card's pretty good.
My mind has been completely changed. I was I was under the impression, which the card does not say this, you did not say this, and I just thought it in my brain. But for some reason, I was thinking my opponent will only always roll their 4 dice that they draw at the beginning of the turn. I completely negated anything in the prep area or, otherwise. Yeah, this is going to be gross. I mean, I'm starting to think back to things we saw in One Big Weekend online tournament. It was, unblockable Poxwalkers, unblockable Ant-Man. It was the Atom spin-up. If you don't roll those energies, like you said, some of these teams are pivoting on rolling a lot of the same energy every turn. You're just not going to do that with this card out.
Exactly, which maybe I'm selling it too short by giving it a C+. Maybe it is a little bit better of a control piece, but that's worth considering, the fact that it does shut down, to some degree, teams that look for specific energy types, or even just teams that roll a bunch of characters at the same time, because if you miss all of them, you can only reroll 2. So
right. I would be converted to a C+.
Oh, there you go.
I'm so...
There it is. All right, you ready? This is the final character in the team pack. We move to Psylocke with the sweet, sweet art. Master Telepathic Combatant. 4-drop mask character. X-Men affiliation. Bad stat line for a 4-drop. You get the 012, 022, 133 stat line for a 4-drop. Is so bad. The ability better be really good. It says when Psylocke attacks, you may KO a sidekick. No, wait, no, scratch that. You may KO the lowest purchase cost opposing character die, which is generally a sidekick. So this card's bad. It's really sad because when attacks ability is solid, because you could buy multiple of these. Yes, it's a 4-drop, so it's kind of investing a lot, but KO the lowest purchase cost opposing character die. Maybe this looks for you to put like some sort of a ping on your team, like a board sweep ping, like deal 1 to all opposing character dice. Then you get to KO the next lowest cost thing. So maybe in that scenario it's pretty good. But then you're buying a 4-drop, plus you're buying whatever you're using to ping everything for 1, just so that you can reach out and KO that 3-drop Shriek. This is a D. This is a D.
Yeah, it's bad. I think I gave this a D as well. I will say one opportunity that I saw was is it a Yellow Lantern ring that gives your character dice in the reserve pool Intimidate?
Yeah, the Weaponer's ring.
Right. So let's pretend that I intimidate away all of the other stuff, and then I attack with this, and the only thing left is their big thing that I want to remove. It can be good, and then this goes through for 3 damage for a 4 cost on its top side.
Woo!
Right, it's still bad. It's still bad.
Just don't try to sugarcoat it. We can call this one a D and move on if you wish.
Let's just do that. Let's just do that.
Is that what you give it? You give it a D?
I gave it a D.
All right, that's a good choice. That's a solid choice. All right, the second Psylocke is an Energized ability. This one's Reforming X-Force 2-cost mask. So this is more appropriate for the purchase cost to match this stat line, an 012 stat line. You don't want a 4-drop 012. This has Energize. You may field a sidekick die from your used pile. So when you roll a double mask, whether during the roll and reroll step at the end of it or during the main step, you get to field a sidekick from used. How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good about it. I feel decent about it. I gave it a B-, above average, for a couple reasons. First, 2-cost mask. There's just a lot of use for a 2-cost mask. The Energize ability actually makes sense in a couple different ways. First, you roll this on double energy. You're not fielding the character, so it means you're probably going to be purchasing something. With 1 less sidekick die in your use pile, that something will get into your bag quicker. Other pairings, I thought this would be cool with, again, a couple of mask globals. You could, in theory, field a sidekick die from your use pile with this Energize ability, and then with those masks, you could field another sidekick out of your field a sidekick die out of your use pile with the Professor X global. Just a lot of things that could be done that are good here.
I thought the exact same thing as everything you just said. Low drop, decent enough stat line for a 3/3 on top. You only have to pay 1 to field this ever. The ability, if you miss it, gets you a sidekick, which is thinning your used pile out, thus thinning your bag out and giving you something in the field. It goes well with Professor X, Mimic, and Billy Club. I mean, all of those things, I thought that. And then I sat down and thought about it a little longer, and I thought to myself, okay, this will only trigger on my own turn, meaning I have to have a sidekick in the used on my turn. Oftentimes, nowadays, your used pile is either completely empty or you're already sort of earmarking that to use with Professor X already. So it's sort of redundant because you could just run Professor X instead of this. And then I also thought most of the time in casual or limited, your bag is full and your used pile is empty, and this misses on the double energy and nothing happens. In fact, that exact thing happened to me multiple times when I played this yesterday in casual in-set play against Ryan Slater on stream. I literally rolled this twice on double energy, like back-to-back turns, and my bag had previously cycled. So it's a little clunkier than I had first pictured. So I think I originally gave this a C+. I would actually bump that down to a nice little C, just because there are some downsides to this, and there are some just straight up better options in the form of global speed, Professor X, and combos like that. That being said, you are picking this up in draft because it's solid. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you don't have any opportunity to put a sidekick die in your used pile. I mean, there's ways to do that on your turn, and you can't do any of that before this triggers. So that makes sense.
The final card in the entire team pack is Psylocke, Telekinetic Bow and Arrow. 2-drop as well, and this again is X-Men affiliated. This one says, when Cyclops is fielded. Oh my god, I said Cyclops. That's weird. When Psylocke is fielded, KO target opposing sidekick character die. So it's like the 4 cost. What the 4 cost is actually going to do most of the time is literally what this 2 cost does. You're paying 2 less to purchase this. This card's way better than that one. I gave this a middle of the road C because fielding something and board state flipping is pretty decent. They're losing a 1/1, you're gaining a 2/2 oftentimes. So yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I said C- for this. It's a good first turn buy. It's a good, if you have things that you want, if you have, let's say, Deadpool coming in later and you just want to clear a sidekick, sure. Yeah, I gave it a C-. I think if you were trying to get real aggro and make sure their field is empty on early turns, this is fine. I think otherwise, yeah.
So that wraps up the entirety of the team pack. Ross, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Give me your top 3 cards in this team pack.
Top 3 cards. I really like the Domino, not really a party girl, just for the quirkiness. Deal 1 damage on Energize and then reroll the die. It's limitless. Let's be honest. It's limitless. I like that card. I really like the Danny Moonstar. When blocked, you reroll all the blocking characters. I hope that it works that way. It is phrased like a single blocking character die, but I hope that it means any blockers. That card is going to be really good. The 3rd spot is sort of up in the air, though. Deadpool's really good, +3 attack and overcrush when he's blocked. I would say in terms of usability and cards that will actually make it on teams for me would be that card.
My top 3 are also kind of hard to narrow down. I'll start at the top because for me, the one I'm most excited about out of this little team pack is that Deadpool. This is Deadpool, we're X-Force, the one that gets +3 attack and overcrush. I love cards that have overcrush. I love cards that give themselves overcrush because I don't want to have to run a second piece that gives it overcrush because that's just clunky. The fact that I don't have to means that this card is sweet. The second card on this top 3 list is really hard to narrow down, as is the 3rd card, because there's like a smattering. There's almost one variant of each character that I find interesting in some way, shape, or form. So if I had to pick, I would probably slap down Danny Moonstar for my number 2. This is the same one that you said. This is the 2-drop when blocked, the illusion casting. That would be my number 2, just because, again, I agree, there's some really cool synergies. Plus, straight up, it's just a good blocker. And then for the 3rd one, this is like a strange 3-way tie between that 3rd magic we talked about, Psionic Shields, as a really interesting control. The Forge that makes your action dice cost 2 less. being one of the best Energize abilities, and then the other one of the best Energize abilities, which is that Domino, not really a party girl. If they all had to duke it out and one of them had to win, I don't know, maybe I'd give it to Domino because it's just too hilarious to watch that come up over and over and over again.
You may only choose one.
That would be a party. I know she says she's not really a party girl, but that's a party right there. So those would be my top 3. So that's the set. Let us know in the comments which of these cards is your favorite. Let us know how poorly, how wonderfully we did with all of these ratings. I found it particularly difficult to rate Energized characters just because it is such an interesting new funky ability that we've never really seen before. But let us know if you think we did a good job or a poor job. You can tell Ross how wonderfully he did because he did a great job. Check out his channel on YouTube and check out his Twitch stream. He streams every Tuesday night at 9/8 Central.
That's right. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come roll some dice.
As always, everybody, thanks for watching.